Advanced tools and equipment, routers. Use. A router is a high-speed rotary cutting tool. It is most commonly used to cut grooves, create decorative edges on wood, or to hollow out areas. A router is a dangerous piece of equipment if you do not know what you are doing. As a GCSE or A-level student, you are considered old enough and mature enough to use the equipment safely. Parts of a router. A router has two handles that should be held whenever the router is in operation. The router bit. The router uses the edge of its cutting bit, which rotates at speeds of approximately 25,000 to 30,000 rotations per minute, to produce a smooth cut. Variable speed routers can typically be adjusted to rotate at speeds of 10,000 RPM to 30,000 RPM. Router bits come in various sizes and shapes, depending on the hardness of wood or other material to be cut, and the type of cut desired. The router bit can be raised or lowered to suit the depth of cut required. Adjustable fence. The adjustable fence is used when routing in order to achieve straight cuts that are parallel to the edge of the material. The distance between the fence and the router bit is important, as this is the distance the groove will be from the edge of the material. Increasing the distance between the fence and the bit will make a groove further away from the edge. How to use a router. Routing a groove. Step 1. Adjust the fence so that it is the appropriate distance away from the edge of the material. Ensure this is secure before routing, as you do not want this to move whilst you make the cut. Step 2. Set the depth of the router by plunging the router down and locking it at the desired depth. Step 3. Secure your workpiece in a jig or to a workbench so that it will not move when routing your groove. Step 4. Rest the router at one end of your work. Its base should be flat and the fence should be touching the edge of the material. Step 5. Put on personal protective equipment, or PPE. Ear protection, eye protection, and removal of loose clothing should be done prior to using a router. Step 6. Plug in. Hold the router using both hands. Pass the cable over your shoulder so that it is out of the way. Move the router bit slightly away from your work before switching on the router to allow the router bit to get up to the required speed before cutting. Step 7. Move the router slowly along the work. Don't rush it, as this will either cause the router bit to blunt or break or damage your work. You must also keep the fence touching the edge of the material at all times. If you drift away, the groove will not be straight. And finally, keep the router flat on the work. Step 8. When you're finished, switch off the router and hold and wait until the router bit has stopped spinning. Once it has stopped, rest it on its side and unplug. Just to recap, router cable should be passed over the shoulder so it is out of the way. The router is operated with both hands. Eye and ear protection are required at all times. Loose clothing and hair must be tied back or removed. 100% focus is required when using a router. Start up the router slightly away from the work so it can get up to the required operating speed. Now, in order for you to use the router, you must demonstrate your understanding. The router task. What I'd like you to do is answer the questions on the sheet provided. If you can't remember any of the answers, you should replay this video and to find out what the answer is, or try and skip to the certain sections and then answer the questions asked.